one of the things that I used to teach when I teach phobias is I would always say there is only one person who has a fear of flying, and that's the pilot, because they're the only person flying. Everybody else has some
Well,
other.
Jess's face then. She's like, oh.
We understand that. The interesting thing is no one else is flying the plane. So how do you have a fear of flying? You don't. If you don't have a fear of flying, you do have a fear, but the question is a fear of what? And phobias are complicated and simple at the same time. I had a person, as an example, I worked with someone who had a phobia of needles, and they came back a week later, and I said, "How is it?" They said, "Oh, no, it's still there." I said, "I wonder why." And they said, "Oh, could it have anything to do with I watched a movie where this person had to get in a bathtub of them?" And I said, "Don't do something like that. That's just crazy." As a result, we can
Trigger.
trigger phobias fairly easily once we have them. Now, we either get them and develop them ourselves or we learn from someone else. So, Tammy, if you could tell me how you do your phobia of flying, so to speak, what comes to mind?
I might see an image on the phone of somebody on a holiday,
Yep.
and then I might get like a zap, electrical zap somewhere across my stomach or chest. I don't know where it is. And then if I happen to be lying down in bed, I will probably imagine being in the plane and then it's wobbling or it's doing something else, which then means I have to go, no, plane goes up, plane goes across, plane goes down. Plane goes up from there, it goes across nice and smooth, and then it lands in Dubai, then it lands up from Dubai, then it goes across nice and smooth, and then it lands in Manchester. And then I go, okay.
So, when is it that you have the problem? Do you have the problem when you're in the plane? Do you have it when others are in the plane? Or do you have it just when the plane's flying?
Um, I have it before we go. I have it on takeoff. I'm pretty good now traveling
Good.
because I seem to have super smooth flights. You want to have a smooth flight? Come with me.
Yeah.
And
So, what happens at takeoff?
in takeoff, I start reciting the Lord's Prayer.
Good. Yep.
And then
I
now
expect
I
you're
have
doing
to,
that a number of times because
well,
once isn't going to get you through the takeoff.
well, yeah, the whole time. And I
Yeah.
might have my cat stuffed toy clutched to my chest because
Yep.
now I've got that since I was
Yep.
in the UK last.
Good. So let's go through a little bit. I'm going to get you to tell me a couple of things, and then I'm going to imagine that I'm you and see if I've got them right. Is that okay with you?
Sure.
Okay. So it's before you're getting on the plane. What happens just before you get on the plane?
Uh, I'll be sitting in the waiting area with my bag, my
Yep.
yeah, and my heart will be thumping, looking at all these people around me being so happy.
Right. Yes.
And
Good. And then you
and
get on
I'll be,
to the
yeah,
plane.
yeah,
What happens
and
when you
I'll be
get on the
getting,
plane?
I'll tell myself these people wouldn't let their kids on the plane if it wasn't safe.
Really? Okay. Yes. Then what happens? You get into your seat.
I get into my seat, do up my seatbelt, um, maybe talk to the people around me if yep,
Okay. And then it starts to take off and you say the Lord's Prayer.
yes.
Okay. So
Well,
let's
that's
just
what I
use
do now.
that's fine. I'm happy enough with that. Let's just go with that for a moment. Now, is it okay if imagine that I'm taking your place for a moment? I've got to do the same things as you. Is it okay if I do the same things as you do?
Sure.
So I want you to tell you what I think you said, and then if you can just check in with yourself and is tell me if whether that's what I've said or not, or whether that's what you've said. Is that all right with you?
Okay, sure. you're going to ask me or I have to
Yeah, yeah.
interrupt you?
No. So I'll say something, then I'll say, "Is that what you said?" And I just want you to consider what I've said, just to check in. Is that what you were saying?
Okay.
So you're in the waiting room, you're just sitting there, and you know how when you're in love, your heart just thumps with that passion of you're going to be seeing someone that you really love and how wonderful it is. And you look around at everybody who's in love and you think, oh, isn't this amazing? Is that what you do?
No, but I wish I did.
Well, if you did, would it still have the same fear?
No, no, I would
Oh,
feel great.
you feel great. Oh, okay. And then you're getting on the plane, and let's say you say to yourself, wow, isn't this just amazing and magnificent? And wouldn't you want everybody to do this? Just be in love and get on the plane and have the passion of what you're going to do? Is that what you say to yourself?
Well, no, it's not.
Because you don't want to forget this.
Because you don't want to forget it. So if you said that to yourself, what would happen?
Um, I think I would feel better.
Would you?
That's
Good.
hard
Oh
to
well, that's
admit.
hard to admit, yeah, but it'd be something. But so you could try that next time and just tell me if I've got it right. And now you go into your seat, you sit down, and you're laughing and you're chatting with everybody because you've got this just passion, just knowing everything's zapping around you with the fun, the happiness, the joy of everything. Is that what you were doing?
No, it's not what I do.
Okay, you sure? Can you just check in and see would that still keep the problem?
Um, if I get on the plane and I laugh, would that feed the problem?
Yeah.
Probably not. I'd know.
Okay. And if you got a sense of, so you're sitting there, and if you got a sense of your guardian angel and the celestial beings are sitting with you next to you, nude, would that make any difference? Is that what you'd do?
Because we don't want to forget this.
I definitely won't ever forget it.
So we start at the beginning again. So you're at the waiting room. What's your heart doing?
Yeah, well, hold on. There's one more thing. So now, is it a Beatles song that you actually sing? Oh no, it has to be a Taylor Swift song. One of her really funny, different ones that I usually can't understand. Is that what you say to yourself when you're there and it's starting to take off?
No, no, but I'm not a big aficionado of Taylor Swift.
And who do you
You're gonna have
like?
to you're gonna have to sing me one.
I'm not good with Taylor Swift either. So who do you like? So what guardian angels do you like? And
Oh,
uh,
Guardian Angels.
yeah, or any songs or
I
what do they sing? And they sing heavenly songs. And we can ask
Is
Maria
that
what
ABBA?
the heavenly
ABBA's good.
sing.
Yeah.
ABBA. Oh, yeah, money, money, money. That'd be a good one. You're getting on the plane and you money, money,
Fabulous.
money going to Manchester. I think that would be really good. Everyone would get into a nice tune with that. Is that what you'd do to yourself and say to yourself? Because I don't want to forget about it.
Maybe. No, but
Hold on. So we go back to the airport because we
Okay.
don't want to forget.
Yeah. So we go back to the airport and oh, I've forgotten. What was it? What happens at the start of the airport?
um I sit there.
You do. That's good to know.
Not nude like the angels.
No, not new like the angels. No, that's in the plane. You just got to wait for the plane. Looking for your heart something and just all the excitement knowing. Oh, so you're in love with the guardian angels who you're just going to be sitting next to. Okay. Okay. Is that what you do?
Well, it seems like I do.
Oh well, next time you're flying and whatever, and you imagine even when other people are flying, just I wonder what guardian angels they have next to them. And, yeah,
Wearing clothes.
are they wearing clothes? What are they doing? Yeah. Are they surfing? Guardian angels love to surf. So yeah, yeah. Anyway, so
No, what
back
master? Here we
to
go.
what? What's the next bit?
What's the next bit? The pink bit.
What's
You
the
like pink bits, don't you, David?
what I'm going to ask you to do is really quite simple. Tammy, I'm going to invite you in a moment to close your eyes, and when you do, I'm going to get you to imagine you're going into a nice, comfortable cinema. Now, you know what a cinema is.
Was it the pictures?
I call it a picture theatre, but I'm old.
Saturday night, do you want to go to the pictures? Like, what is that, David?
Yeah.
Yeah, picture theatre.
Yes. My mum's 90. I know all about the pictures.
We're getting good. Yeah, that's it. So I'll get you to close your eyes, and I want you to imagine going into a comfortable cinema. And it's a special movie theatre where you have a golden ticket. And the movie theatre is there just for you. Use your imagination as you walk into the cinema where your special movie is going to play. And as you walk in, notice it has the right colours, the right sounds, the right fragrances. And you choose a seat in the middle row. You sit in it, you feel the fabric, and you sit back comfortably, hearing the sounds, smelling the popcorn, whatever makes sense to you. And while you sit in the middle row, I want you to notice an aspect of you, like your soul, just floats up and drifts up, right up back into the projector room at the back of the movie theatre. And you feel the coziness of the space. And you see yourself in the middle row where you're looking down from the movie theatre at the very, very back. And however, as you're in the projector room, there's like a perspex glass between you and that other version of you sitting in the middle row. You can see yourself and you can see the screen. Looking at the screen, we're going to play a movie of your old memory of the first time you learned about that fear. And you're going to notice that memory that you have has a beginning just before you had the fear or something happened that created it, and it has an end. Otherwise, it'd be just too consuming, and we can't have that because that doesn't work. But
So going back to that earliest memory.
So going back to that earliest memory, I want you just to see a slide on the screen of the first scene of that movie. And see that slide on the screen. And I want you to blink it black and white, black and white, black and white. Just blink it black and white. And I want you to shrink it down so it becomes so small on the screen. And as it does, you see the screen slightly faded or black and white. And watching it for the last time on the screen from the beginning to the end, that movie, freeze it. And then I want you to rewind from the end to the beginning as fast as possible. So you imagine everybody's walking backwards, talking backwards. And so now you imagine everybody's just going from the back all the way back to the beginning, back to the beginning, back to the beginning. And now blank the screen. And you jump to the end where you are safe at the end. And it's almost like we're going to hear circus music as we start running it backwards, all the way back to the beginning, and we just repeat it, and we go from the end back to the start, and the end back to the start, end back to the start. As you jump into the end, imagine yourself doing everything backwards, just before the phobia, before the problem, before anything was ever said, and then stop. Notice something's changed. So let's do it again. Jump into the end, play it backwards, back to the start, way back to the start. Now, what I want you to do is to float out of the projector room and sit in the middle seat again. This time, feel the comfort, feel your feet on the floor, just relax. This time, I want you to watch it from the beginning to the end and notice a change. And you go to the end of the movie now, and as you get to the end of the movie, you breathe. And it's okay because you have now gone through what you have gone through. You survived and you grew up to tell a new story. Now come out of the movie theatre and float up out of that movie theatre. So you're looking down on that theatre and thinking, isn't that interesting? What I want you to do is bubble up this theatre. So you're just picking it up and taking it higher and higher, higher and higher and higher. And when you're ready, I want you to drop this bubble, this old story, down on 3, 2, 1, drop. And you're seeing that old memory just completely smash out of the energy field, out of every cell, completely free of the old story. And now float into the future, to a time where previously it would have been, you would have created an uncomfortable response. And I want you now to look at that scene down there and notice how things have changed. You have a choice now, and you can respond to that choice. Things have changed, and this is a good thing. And it's time to come back into the room. Bring with you your awareness of these changes. Come back to this moment, to this now moment, coming all the way back into the now. And when you're ready and you come all the way back into now, then open your eyes to a whole new you. So on a scale of now 1 to 10, where 10 is the most uncomfortable you've ever been and 1 is no problem whatsoever, I want you to imagine now a plane. Maybe you see people who are overseas, maybe you know that they're there, maybe you even think about going to Manchester. And what number from a scale of 1 to 10 now comes to mind?
What, a 5?
Good.
Yeah. A 3?
Yes, it will
No.
continue to go down. It will go down, and you'll be fine because it lands easily and comfortably. It just lands there, and you safely, calmly, comfortably. Because as you said, you have all the good flights, all the comfortable flights, all the ones that are just, yeah, smooth.
Have the nude celestial beings.
Well, yeah, they're there too. Mind you, they
Well,
probably stay
yeah,
on the
now
plane, but I don't know.
I can't imagine them now.
Oh,
So well done, because you've created a change in how you perceive.
That really was amazing. Because when you asked me to say it again, I couldn't. I was stuck on the seat in the waiting room, in the waiting area.
That's why it's called a strategy scrambler. It scrambles your strategy.
Yeah.
from the people who are observing, any ahas? Give us some feedback. What did you notice? What worked? What didn't work?
The more ridiculous, the better.
Absolutely, you are right. That is one of the things. The more you can change it around, swap it around, the better. You do want to use the rep systems in what they're giving you because that's important because then they'll take notice of it.
Mm.
What were some of the things that you noticed that we did either in the strategy scrambler or in the fast phobia model? What were some of the things that we were putting in there from all about NLP, about modeling change and about modeling different things? What things did we put in there? Brooke, what did we put in there?
I'm just trying to think back to that part because I got really confused myself.
as you go, not in a bad way, but just like muffling up the strategy sort of thing. And yeah, I was like trying to remember what she said.
Can I
Sounds
say
like
that's the
confusion.
purpose of it, is to cause confusion. And what you'll often find is if there's other people around, just like you've done, Brooke, people will go into confusion. And what happens when people go into confusion? So, Matt, what happens when people go into confusion?
You mute.
Uh,
Well, then the strategy's scrambled and they're a blank slate for you to input new things for them.
well, partly, but if someone's in confusion, they're going to try and get out of it, aren't they? So they will
Yes.
make up things. So you're right. Then they're open to any sort of suggestion you give. And the more crazy the suggestion, and you make sure that they try it on. So you say to them, now I want you to try it on. And if they look at you and think that's just crazy, you say, now try it on. And then you watch them try it on and you'll notice their facial expression changes. So sensory acuity is extremely important in this one to watch. And one of the things, please note, the fun you can have with this is as the person saying, well, I'm going to tell you the things that I've told you, I usually write this stuff down just to keep on track, because otherwise you tend to go off into your own little world, a little bit like Maria, you said before. And sometimes that's a good thing because you can say all these things and it just confuses a person. And that's good because if they're confused, then they're wanting to do something else. And if you can give them some totally different weird ideas, they will take them.
Did anyone notice what David did with the heart racing thing?
Oh yeah, he turned everything positive, like everything.
Yeah, the
like
crossing
a nice
over.
feeling. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I didn't use but was actually implied was Tammy had said something about electricity.
Oh.
Now, love is a very strong electrical field. As a consequence, that's one of the reasons why I picked up love and the beating heart and the passion, because I actually said, and it sparks everything. So it actually even changed the electricity meaning.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, I got that at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where it's subtle sometimes.
Because we use that in NLP with the, if somebody's like, oh, it's, it's public speaking, my heart's racing, and it's like, well, is there ever a time where your heart's racing and it's a good thing?
Yeah.
So Claire, because you know how I usually go back and listen to things, should I not listen to this at all?
What will happen is there's no need for you to listen to it because it's already implanted itself. And even when you go to bed tonight, you'll find that the thinking of it will just keep re-implanting and it's just going to land easily into you. So you don't really have to go back over it. If you did, it won't cause any difficulties. What it actually does puts you into an even more confused state so that you're looking for the answers. And then the answers will just land.
David's doing hypnosis stuff on you, Tammy.
I was just about to say, now he's hypnotizing you. And I liked it too, David, that at the beginning, when you were giving Tammy the instructions, you already were being confusing. Your sentences didn't make any sense. And Tammy was asking for clarification because she's like, but hang on, what do you want me to do? And you just repeated it in the same like nonsensical way that you did before. And she was like, oh, I just have to go with it then because she wasn't going to get anything concrete out of you, which I really liked. So
yeah, and so
you set the scene
what
very nicely.
good pickup, because what I was doing was breaking down any sort of resistance and barrier to make sure that I could then try it out and get you to try things. So yes, you're looking at confusing them as quickly as you can so that you break down their resistance and the barrier. And people will usually let down their barriers when they're confused because
if there's rapport,
because they're trying to work out, what do I do now?
Jess?
Mm.
Good morning, Jess.
No, I loved that. I thought that was so cool. I think the part for me that like was the most memorable was when I think you call it cross mapping, where you find like the words, she said zaps and then the thumping of the heart, but like I think we've already spoken about this, but like in the negative way, and that you use that in like a really positive way. And for me, that was like, whoa, I felt that.
Yep. It's actually a fun thing to practice the strategy scrambler, even on someone who doesn't really have a big problem. And what you want to do, as an example, if I use an example of person who, let's say they're overeating and they want to stop eating, then it's not that you're going to necessarily make full changes to them, but what you can do is you can say to them, look, you want to stop overeating, but I don't overeat. I want to know how you do it. Can you help me to understand it? And as soon as you say, can I understand it? Then you've already got them connected. So then what you have to do is get them to go through the strategy, looking for what main rep systems they're using. Are they doing a visual, an auditory, a kinesthetic, or are they doing a kinesthetic, a visual, an auditory, AD? What do they do? So you get that. So once you've got that, then you say, as per the script, the idea is, well, I want to repeat this back to you, and I would like you just to let me know, have I got it right? So just try it on and just check.
Because you don't want to forget.
Because you don't want to forget. And
Okay.
then what you have to do is become very creative. So do not make sense. Get rid of Grammarly, get rid of grammar, get rid of everything that you think. Bring in every type of confusion, different word having different meanings and everything. And the more you can put that in and ask them to try it on, the better it works.
And then you were talking about the rep system. If they have the overeating strategy and it's like, yeah, I see the pizza in the fridge, then you still use a visual.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I had a person, and I know who, and he said, I'd come in, I'd put my bag down, and I'd walk to the fridge, I'd open the fridge, and I'd pull out the bread and make a sandwich. I said, oh, okay. So you come to the front door and you knock first. Is that what you do? He said, no, I open it. Oh, okay. So you knock and open the door. Now I've already planted a new strategy in his mind without him even knowing. And then I said, so you get your bag and you take it upstairs to where your office is. He said, no, I don't do that. I said, but if you did, would it work? He said, I don't know. So I said, imagine doing it. And he said, yeah, okay. And I said, so how do you get to the fridge? I have to get to the fridge from being upstairs. So I run downstairs, I run out the door, I come back to the door, I knock on the door. So I've gone back over and repeated it. And it just scrambled his mind because he's trying to hold on to a strategy that no longer is there. So that's what you want to do. You want to make sure that you've got a sense of it and then make it as wild as you can.
You open the fridge and there's your dog and it's all like, hello, I've stepped into a new reality. Yeah.
Yep.
Any questions?
I do have one.
Practice it. Sorry?
It's Celeste.
I just want to know, does anyone, like, some people might get super frustrated with the scrambler. Like,
Working with David, yeah.
I feel like if I did that to my partner, he'd just get like annoyed with me because he'd think I'd be fucking with him.
That's where the rapport and the setup comes in.
Yeah.
If you say to someone, and if they come to you and they say, and it's your partner, it could be anybody, and they say something's not working, you can say to them, okay, well, so I can better understand you, can we just go through it and let me see if I'm going to understand it? And if they say yes, they've given you permission
to mess with them.
You can mess with them.
Is there we don't have to go into his privacy, but is there like a common theme you get in the car with him on a Sunday morning and he starts to complain about something?
No, he just finds my way of talking frustrating. So I feel like this would completely like go down that pathway of like me thinking I know not listening, but really I'm actually just like teasing. I feel like he gets like frustrated with it, but I could just see that whole thing playing out in that way. But I was also thinking for like people who are super logical, and like some of our clients, like Maddie probably might experience this too, that are very like logical, like autism regimented. Like they don't. I've worked with a client very much. He didn't like the grey, and he didn't like the outside of the box. Like it had to be 1, 2, 3, 4 down the line. So I feel like, I mean, again, I don't know if I'd ever do this on him, but that sort of person type may get more annoyed with this than.
Now, what happens, and the trick to it is don't get confused, so to speak, with annoyance and confusion.
Yeah, be curious.
Because be curious, and one of the things you want to have fun, so you want to make them laugh. I was doing things to make Tammy laugh.
Yeah.
Now, when someone's laughing and they're confused, then things are shifting and changing, and they don't even know that it's changing. If someone was like you said, okay, they go down and it's like I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and if you said you do 1, 2, 4, 3, they're going to not like it. They're going to have a problem. Now, what happens is if instead you say, okay, so I want you to now notice, now see if I've got this right. You do A, B, C, D. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you've used something different, and they'll say, no, that's not right. It has to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And so, A, B, C, D. Is that what you said? And you can actually repeat it a couple of times and say, would that work?
Okay.
And what happens is they don't have time to get annoyed because they're trying to work out what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually really smart. Like process the change.
Yeah. I have a person I work with who has a level of autism, and we're in a meeting today, and every now and then he would say things, and then he'd look across to me because I understand his humor, which is a little bit different. But he checks in, has someone got it? And I always, when I notice him from the side of my eye, I always smile, even if I haven't got it, because then it makes him realize, everything's good, everything's fine, it's all continuing as it needs to.
Sweet. Thank you.
I have a question. I think I know the answer, but like, is there much difference in like, so obviously there was like a few series of events where it's like, okay, now Tammy's sitting in the seat and now she's walking over to the plane, now she's in the plane. Is there much of a difference in like, I guess that's like, let's just say 3 different strategies that you're scrambling versus like the going back to the start and sort of like trying to make your way through it? Does that really matter? Or if there's like a few events, you can do it separately and then try and make a picture for the whole thing?
The point with that, as I started off, I said some phobias are actually simple and some are complicated. And as I said, remember when I started off by saying there is no such thing as a fear of flying. It's either claustrophobia, heights, or others. Part of the reason of saying that was the person is going to say one of 2 things. Yeah, but I've got a fear of flying. And I go in and say the only person who's got the fear of flying is a pilot. And they say, I'm not the pilot. So I've already started to do a little bit of a scramble. But at the same time, I've actually said that you don't have that fear.
That fear can't exist.
Can't exist.
Yeah.
And so then I had to work out where were the points that caused the problem. Now, if someone had, for example, if I pick up spiders as a very simple one and say someone's got a fear of spiders, then one of the things that's happening is the fear of the spider, once they have the fear, that's not when it got caused. It got caused when they didn't have the fear. So what you're doing is getting them to go back, and sometimes you have to do a little bit of a type of a timeline or what's called
what, drop down?
no, where they go, you get them to go back and you say, I want you to think of a time in the past and step into that time and feel what you're for.
Transderivational search.
A transderivational search. And what you're doing is you're getting them to go back, because one of the tricks with phobias is a person will never tell you what caused the phobia because they don't know. What they will only ever tell you is what the phobia is.
So what phobias have you gotten rid of?
I got rid of spiders, snakes, heights, claustrophobia.
You got to the pyramids, couldn't get in.
couldn't go into the Great Pyramid. I had claustrophobia and darkness and whatever. So nah.
And then he came home and learnt hypnotherapy.
Wow.
It was the pyramids that got him started on this journey.
Yep. So as an example, just answering the strategy side, Jess, I had a person I was working with or actually training, and they had a fear of snakes. And I said, tell me what caused it, do you think? And they said, I was walking along the field in a grassy area and there was one, and I nearly stepped on it. And I said, no, that can't be the cause because you already knew you had the fear. So he went away for lunch, came back after lunch, and he said, I remember now. I was a 4-year-old. I went into Grandpa's shed, and up the top were these jars of formaldehyde ones. And he said, that was the thing that got me. I said, yep, that'll pretty much cause you to have a phobia. So one of the things is that you have to work through to find out what the cause is. Sometimes it's obvious and sometimes not. So if that was the case, then that became a very simple movie to play because it was just, let's take you from a time of safety before you go into your grandpa's shed, go into the shed and come out again. So that's all it was.
Well, we didn't actually, we were a bit naughty. We skipped past that bit on Tammy's first fear.
Well, I did only because the way, Tammy, you described it, and you said, I see people and they're overseas, I've been in a plane. And so, and the idea is I was told 3 different events. Potentially that could have been 3 different phobias. Okay. And so all I did was, rather than trying to go back and work out where they all are in a way of just demonstrating the process, I just linked them all together.
Yeah, but that's what I said at the beginning, that we would most likely have to do 3-ish sessions. There's
Yeah.
going to be fear of dying, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
taking on mum stuff.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question, Jess? We went off on a waffle.
Yeah, it did. And I feel like, I mean, I don't have a fear of flying, but like, I feel like
got
that
one?
very first line, no, because I will never be able to get back home. But the very first one, the very first line about like, actually, you don't have the fear. The only person that would be the pilot. I think for me, I was like, oh, I would not have a fear then. Obviously, I would just be like, what the heck? It's not me. Like what?
How did you
That's
feel, Tammy, when I had said that, the idea that the phobia, you don't have a fear of flying, it's only the pilot?
My mind then went to the cockpit and I'm imagining the pilot, and then I'm going, oh, hang on a sec, there's at least 2 people flying the plane.
Yeah.
There's more
So
than one.
notice you're already trying it out. Okay, and that's the fun thing with this is you're watching to make sure they're trying it out. And if they are, then you know that you've got them hooked. If they're not trying it out, try and hook them a bit more. If you can't, let it go. Try another time.
Cool. So we'll pair you all up. No. I'm watching Caitlin's face when I say that at 9 o'clock at night. No deal.
The funny, Celeste, with your cat, it's your cat, isn't it, Celeste? Yeah.
Normally it's Caitlin's cat.
Okay. What's funny? I watch different things with dogs, cats, and other animals. And you're right. One of the funny things is you watch cats and they will do what they want to do more than what dogs will, and they will just be there. So you will look at people who are around with that. Whenever you're doing things like phobias and stuff like that, work out what are things that the people have that they like. What are their pets?
Yeah, what's already safe?
What's safe and stuff like that, because you can also bring that into the stuff
We
you're
know
getting them to do.
we know Tammy. Well, Tammy's often spoken about her. What is it with your manifesting phrase there, Tammy? Your higher self or something? I can't remember it.
My manifesting phrase?
Yeah, like your higher self. You often
A
you
higher
don't talk.
self?
You don't call it your higher self. You call it something else.
My soul? My higher self?
You're saying highest
my...
love.
Thank you.
Oh, from last week. Yeah, the highest love.
Yeah, so I've got a whole list here of Tammy strategy scramblers that go into things that you've already mentioned are safe. So I had the celestial being because I needed to contact Jess and find out what it was called. But like, yeah, them being nude. I travel through time and space to the heart of the destination, which David had done. I look out the windows and sense the angels holding up the plane. It's like, yeah, that's more powerful than a man. So I had a list of backup stuff if David hadn't been here. Tammy, I look in the mirror and say to myself, thank goodness I'm not my mother. I had a whole list here of scrambling a whole variety of different things.
Yeah, oh, it just it scrambled me. Because I was imagining the guide and the angels sitting next to me, and then when they were nude, like that actually shocked me.
Yeah, that wasn't
And
mine. Don't say that one.
like I know I reacted because I felt it.
And that's what you're looking for, is what are the things that can link in with the person. So even if you're working with a person who's got a phobia for the very first time, you want to be spending about half an hour beforehand getting to know the person and finding out what do they like, what works, what's their safe things, so you can then bring those in as part of the good side and the positive side. Yeah.
And so for the last 5-ish, 10-ish minutes, is there any question that you want to ask David's perspective on anything else that we've covered? Timeline, eye patterns, anchors, strategies, meta model. We haven't covered that yet. Metaphors.
I have a question. This might have been answered already, but I know that, like, obviously this is fast phobia model, but we were talking earlier that can use it on like other things. But like when we come to things that might not be so physical, even though there might be something physical there, but like if I was talking about, like, say a client has fear of judgment or something like that, is it best to use this model or would it be something else completely?
I have a whole script for judgment.
For doing judgment, she's really good at doing judgment. Yes. Oh, that's not what you meant. Oh, okay. One of the thing to be aware of and to ask is, and this is that concept of how do you do? So you say to them, how do you do judgment?
Mm.
Now, what you're doing with anything is, if you ask how do you do, they're going to tell you a strategy. Once you have a strategy, or they can give you a strategy, you can scramble it. But if they can't give you a strategy, you can't scramble it.
Yes, but with the judgment piece, I would this is where I would scramble that, Jess, when I get my book out. But when we talk about judgment and somebody feeling the sense of judgment, I will actually flip it around onto, do you judge yourself? Have you always been judgmental of yourself? What are you aiming to achieve by judging? Give me a word or phrase that you would use to judge yourself. Is this motivational? Blah blah blah. So I would still flip and play around with the judgment, not just them receiving it, but judging themselves, comparing. What does it mean to you if you make a mistake? Why aren't you listening to your intuition? So I'm not sure if I answered that question, Jess, but that's where I would still strategically play with that.
So so you have often, if it happens to be an emotion, often you'll use a timeline as part of that, and there's a number of other scripts and stuff that Claire talks about. At the same time, one of the things that you want to recognize is when someone has some kind of an emotion, there is a strategy around it.
Yeah, so teach me how you judge yourself.
So if you recognize that, what you want to do is change their strategy. And if you can change their strategy, they can't actually do the emotion the same way and trigger it the same way because the strategy is different.
So the strategy scrambler would be enough or something like that, because now what I'm seeing is like it's all about like the pre-work to make sure that you like understand what sort of process to go into, sure. Because you can go into like timeline and you can go into other things, but in this, if you get a strategy, the strategy scrambler would be enough, right? And then you wouldn't necessarily have to go into like the movie thing, or is it just that extra?
You're right. And what happens is it's the sensory acuity and it's check-in. So what you do is you do a process and see, is it gone? If it's not gone, do another process. Is it gone? No, do another process. So
Okay.
all right. All right, you answer it from your side.
How many processes are you going to do before you go to a strategy scrambler?
Oh no, that's what I said. You do a strategy scrambler, and if it works, you can stop there. But if it doesn't work or something else is happening, you then may do a different process. That's what I said.
Okay. And that comes in with the 1 to 10 calibration at the end.
Yeah.
We're yet to still go into the meta model. That's next week.
Okay.
So the meta model, Jess, is the very first questions that you ask before you go into the strategy elicitation, before the process. So yes, 9 times out of 10, I will always identify their strategy on how do you do anxiety, how do you do judgment, how do you do your goals. I would definitely elicit their strategy because they give so much information away in what motivates them.
Okay. Oh, I'm excited for the meta model.
You're the first person ever in the world to say that.
No, I don't know, it makes so much sense in my head. I don't know.
Yeah, AD person.
And sometimes you want to make sure that you give them time. And what I mean by that was notice how Tammy, I asked between 1 and 10, and she said 5, and then she said 3. What happens is it's moving the whole time. Even when you stop, there's still the movement. So be aware that sometimes you finish the process, check in, and then give them time to continue to do some process
To let it land.
To let it land, absolutely, and then you find that it just flies through very, very, very quickly.
Yeah. And then something that I noticed that you did.
That spark just continues to activate with every beat of our heart. It's just so lovely.
The love through. No, absolutely.
I'm planning to
but then-
meet someone when I'm over there, just inserting that. So I thought it was all very appropriate. And make money.
You can use that strategy elicitation for problems, for money, for children, all of that stuff.
Something that I noticed I remember just now when at the very end was, and I feel like everything's intentional, so I feel like this is, but at the end when Tammy said I went from a 5 out of 10 to a 3 out of 10, and you saying like that time, you said, yeah, tonight when you go to bed, it'll land. So I felt like that was something that, okay, it's gonna, like, the final number is gonna hit tonight or something when she goes to bed.
What you do, whenever you do work with anybody, then because they're going to keep processing anyway once they're finished, you always say to them, and tonight when you go to bed, you'll find how it just finishes and completes, and you feel fantastic.
It'll work its way deeper and deeper into the system. So when you wake up with the aha, it's done.
Yeah, and so you put that in there because they're still open to all the suggestions. Like Matt said, you get them into confusion, and then they're open to the suggestions. So when they're processing, they're still open to suggestion.
Which I did, I think I shared with you guys. It might not have been there, Jess. And I had a client who always said, I've got to need time to integrate. And I knew she was off to do her food shopping. And I said, by the time you get to the bananas, you'll integrate it. And that I got a text message from her saying, like, it was like this banana aisle, it was like just landed. It was
Yeah, I think the banana one was the reason why I picked that up. I'm like, oh, Claire's told us about that before.
Yeah. So then when we went to master training, I made sure I had banana lollies going, how easy is this to integrate?
So if you're working with someone, when I'd work with footballers and stuff like that, you know they're going out and doing training, then you'd say, so when you're out training and you put your boots on, which is anchoring, then all of a sudden it all just comes back to you. So you're telling them and anchoring things at the same time. Brooke, with the people that you used to do, or if you're still doing it, the study work and whatever, and you know they're going to do things, you can say to them, when you pull that piece of paper out, when you pull the pen out, when you have wherever you are, and that's where one of the things you're doing is you're anchoring the change to say, not only now is it continuing, so it will continue, even become even more powerful at that stage. So you want to reinforce anything you can. What that then does is, if they're going to have any difficulty, you can always go back and say, have you done that thing? Like, for example, have you put your boots on yet? I haven't done that. Go put your boots on and see how it happens.
Yeah, go pick up the pen.
Go and pick up the pen. Go and do whatever. And it's amazing what happens. Yeah.
And that's like there's a good thing about coaching, and then it's also, if you want the external validation, it's not so great because people take these suggestions at an unconscious level, get on with their lives. Down 3 months later, like, oh wow, like my life's changed, and they don't really have that logical awareness that the thing that you did with them 3 months ago is still working with them. So it's, I don't know, for me sometimes it's a little bit interesting watching clients I've worked with have that success, and there's absolutely the celebration for it, but I'm not quite sure they're actually aware of all the layers that were planted a long time ago. Yeah. Anyway, all gone very quiet. Yeah.
Yeah, I was afraid that Matt had fallen asleep, but I gather you had, Matt, so that was good.
He's just curious. Yeah, Matt. He's just curious.
I mean, I have another question if no one else does.
Yeah, sure, Jess. Yeah.
Look, I feel like this is coming back to anchors. When you speak about putting the boots on and the picking up the pen and things, is it something that, like, or can you do it this way? Like what Claire's written down a lot of things that relates to Tammy and things that she would like really resonate with. Can you sort of use that as an anchor without actually doing like the process of like, okay, I'm going to put it in the crystal, I'm going to like do the anchor process pretty much. Can you sort of, just because you know that that's something that they relate to, you know that, for example, like with you, Claire, when you knew your client was going to the grocery shops, you said, well, okay, when you get to the bananas, however, the bananas, what you didn't actually anchor anything to the banana, or maybe that was a process where you all of a sudden just anchored it without anything else.
Just conversational hypnosis in that moment, knowing they were in trance.
One of the things you can do is one of the things that people anchor all the time, and Tammy had anchored it before last week, from what I gather, what was said before was a particular word or a couple of words that Claire said, oh, what was that thing that you say? And what happens is people anchor words and like things like that all the time. And as a result, what you can often do is, if they've anchored a word that's a positive word, you bring that in as part of the work that you do. And basically, where you can stack anchors, you can use that as a way of stacking the anchor, because you already know it's positive, and you can say the change and then bring in that word or words, colors, phrase, picture, whatever it is, and anchor it to the same thing, so that then it becomes even stronger.
So it's with your clients there, Jess, it's like when everybody is like saying, get in touch with the time when you made a plan. You knew with certainty that you were going to write the plan, action the plan, and the plan actually became your reality. And notice that strategy. And now notice this thing over here that you're stuck on. What's the difference? What's missing from the plan that worked compared to the plan that's not working? And then you can map across and recognize in their strategy piece that's missing. Does that make sense? So all of this strategy stuff is the finite detail of what works for somebody, and then bringing it over to procrastination or whatever else, stuckness, frustration, anxiety. So yeah.
A
Cool.
funny one that's really just observing from a Zoom point of view. One of the really funny things you can do with people, and I want you all just to try this for a second and let Claire know next week how you go. So I want you to think of something that you really want to do that's enjoyable. And as you think about that now, I just want you to notice the feeling you've got. So get the feeling. And now what I want you to do is to ramp that feeling up. And then I want you to imagine in your mind as if you reach out to the door handle on the door of the room you're in. And as you touch that, it just makes that great feeling tenfold. Make it 100-fold. Make it 100-fold. So as you imagine touching that handle, all of a sudden that feeling of greatness and everything goes through 100-fold for you. And so now open your eyes. And at some stage, my assumption is you're going to leave the room you're in, and you're going. Brittany's the one I'm sort of watching more than anything else. And there's a door right behind you, and I'm assuming it's either a cupboard or it's a door to get out. And you're going to have to use that handle, and it's going to be interesting to know what happens when you touch that handle.
Really, really good.
So this is where you have fun with a lot of the things that you know and make them simple rather than trying to think they're all complicated. Because in actual fact, most of it's things people do all the time, but you can make it very simple when you highlight those things. It's a little bit like, Matt, every time that you put that headset on, it's amazing what you hear yourself saying and the amazing things that come out of your mouth.
He just channel every time he crouches that beard, he channels in higher wisdom from
Absolutely.
the quantum.
That's a good one. Yeah, thank you. Keep stacking.
Ah, good stuff. Try to get to sleep now after that one.
Yeah,
So-
we like.
Channeling that wisdom in there, Matt.
Yeah. Hey, babe, so much wisdom's coming through. Listen to this.
Oh yeah, get in touch with the higher masters.
Yeah.
Cool. So I think that's enough for this evening, but next week we